Hi everyone, it's Sharmila here from Can You Teach, and in this video we're going to be converting between fractions and decimals. So we know that when we convert from a fraction to decimal, we'll either end up with a terminating decimal or a repeating decimal. That's all you can ever end up with because fractions are rational numbers. So for the first example, 1/4, all you have to do is to do direct division. So 1/4 means exactly 1 divided by 4. So you can either enter that into your calculator or do long or short division. So 1 divided by 4 doesn't work. 4 into 10 goes twice with a remainder of 2. And 4 into 20 goes 5 times exactly. So when it goes exactly, we have no remainder. So we just stop there, and we end up with 0.25. All right, so that's it. Very straightforward example. If we take something like 1/3 instead, then again, that just means 1 divided by 3. So we go 1 divided by 3, so that's 3 goes into 10 3 times, with a remainder of 1. And we see that again, we're putting 3 into 10. So again, that's going to be 3 with a remainder of 1. And that's going to keep happening forever, right? There's nothing else that can happen. So we know that that's going to continue forever. So we've got a repeating decimal. So 0.3 repeater. Okay? So that's it. To convert from a fraction to a decimal, all you need to be able to do is division. So if you've got a calculator, that's great. Otherwise, practice your long and short division and you'll be fine. Converting from decimals to fractions is where it can get a little bit trickier, but still not too bad. So if I have a terminating decimal, it's quite straightforward to convert it into a fraction. All I have to look at is how many decimal places do I have. So in this case, I have 1 decimal place. So what I need to do is multiply the number by 10. And the reason I picked 10 is because it has the same number of zeros as decimal places, just 1 0. And I can't just multiply by 10, so I also have to divide by 10. That way I haven't changed the number. So 0.7 times 10 moves the decimal place all the way to the end, so it's just 7 divided by 10. And that we already should have known because the 7 is in the tenths column. That's the other way to think about it. So since I can't simplify that, that's it. It's done. So if I look at this one, this time I have 2 decimal places, so I need to multiply and divide by 100. 2 zeros for 2 decimal places. So that's simply 25 over 100. And this time this fraction can be simplified to just 1/4 if I divide top and bottom by 25. All right, so that's done as well. So all you have to think about is moving the decimal place and dividing by the same number you multiplied by. So that's great for terminating decimals. But what if we have a repeating decimal? So this time I have infinite decimal places, so there's nothing I can multiply by to move the decimal place all the way to the end. So we have to get a little bit more creative. So what we start by doing is we call this number that we want to convert x. So x is the same as 0.333 going on forever. All right, next I say, well, if this is x, 10x would be 3.333. Still going on forever. All I did was move this 1 place across. So what I can do then is say, well, what if I subtract x from both sides? So from this side, I'm subtracting x, and from this side, I'm subtracting 0.333. So what that gives me is on this side, I've got 9x, And on this side, all of these 3's are going to cancel with all of these 3's. So I end up with just 3. So now if I solve for x, then I end up with x equals 3 over 9, which simplifies to 1 over 3. And so now that's my simplified fraction. So x, which was my original number, is 1/3. So 0.3 repeated is the same as 1/3. Cool, right? So let's try another example where we have a bigger chunk repeating. So this time, I'm going to start by calling it x again. And I know that this number is 2.191919, like that, repeating forever. So now I can try and do the same thing where I say that if this is x, 10x would be 21.9191. But that's not as helpful this time, because if I line up the dots, the pattern doesn't line up anymore, right? So that doesn't work so well. What I need to do is move the decimal place along one more place. So this is kind of useless. Instead, let's go 100x. So now I've got 219.1919. So now that works. Now my repeating chunk is exactly the same. The decimal part is the same. So I can just subtract x from both sides. Subtract x from this side and subtract 2.19 repeated from this side. And what I end up with is 99x is equal to 219 minus 2. Because these parts cancel it out. So that's just 217. So finally, x is equal to 217 divided by 99. And you can see if that simplifies, but this one does not. So my answer is just 217 divided by 99. And that's it. All right? So all you have to notice for this technique is that the length of the chunk that repeats, so the number of digits that are repeating, is the same as the number of zeros in what we multiply it by. So in this case, it was just 1 digit repeating, so we multiplied it by just 10. In this, there was 2 digits repeating, so we multiplied by 100. All right, so if we had 3 digits repeating, it would be 1,000 and so on. All right, so to summarize, going from fraction to decimal is really straightforward. All you have to do is simply divide, whichever way you can, and you look for a pattern. So if it doesn't seem to be ending, but you have the same numbers repeating again, then you know that as soon as you've got that repetition starting, you can just write it as a repeating decimal. So to convert from a decimal to a fraction, if you have a terminating decimal, all you have to do is look at how many decimal places you've got. And so if you've got 2 decimal places, for example, then you would just multiply and divide by 100. Okay, because you've got 2 zeros in 100 to match the 2 decimal places. And for a repeating decimal, you do the same kind of thing, but you look at how many digits you have in your repeating chunk. And so you start by calling it x, and then if you've got 2 numbers in your repeating chunk, then you multiply by 100. So if it's 2 digits, then you go to 100x, and that way when you subtract the x, the repeating parts cancel out. So I hope that helps you to make sense of how to convert between fractions and decimals. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments below. Otherwise, you can always get extra help at candoteach.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.